All right, like she said, my name is James Purpura. I want to thank you guys for coming today. I want to start, before we get started, I want to tell you guys all something very important. Everything about your life currently as it is makes sense. Your relationships make sense. How much money in your bank you have in your bank makes sense. Everything makes sense. It is all in perfect order. Believe it or not, it's just the way we created it to be. The reason we can't see that it makes sense is because we are all delusional. In fact, we all are. You're delusional, I'm delusional, we all are. I'm going to share some concepts with you today that are going to change the way you see yourself and your life moving forward. The dictionary defines delusion as having or maintaining false or inaccurate beliefs. Psychiatry defines delusion as having a false, sorry guys, describes delusion as maintaining a false or fixed belief even when confronted with the truth. I want to tell you guys a story. The story is about this guy. This guy wants more than anything to be loved. He wants a relationship. The guy also has really low self-esteem. The guy walks into a store, and when he's in the store, the girl behind the counter begins flirting with him. My question for you is, does he see it? No. So what? You're telling me he doesn't see it? So the thing that he wants most in life is presenting itself to him and he doesn't see it? I mean, how could that be? My question for you, my second question for you is why? Why doesn't he see it? I know, I told you he had low self-esteem. So therefore, he can't see it, right? The thing he wants is presenting itself, and his low self-esteem is a belief that is working with his perception to deny the experience is even happening. So there's another question you should be asking yourself, because this is kind of disturbing. The question you should be asking yourself is, if this guy does not see, if the thing that he wants most in life is presenting itself to him and he doesn't see it, is that happening to me? Are the things that you want most in life presenting themselves to you and you can't see them? And I'm here to tell you today that that is absolutely happening to you. The things that you want most in life are there. They're already presenting themselves to you. They just sit outside of your perception. See, our perception, much like our eyesight, actually is contained in a limited field. Just like your eyesight is contained in a field, your perception is contained in a field. We call that your field of perception. So what happens is, as you're having experiences, based on what you believe to be true, that dictates your field of perception. So you can only believe the things you can only see the things that you believe to be true. Well, over time, as you start having these experiences, and you have them over and over and over again, and your mind keeps denying what you're seeing, quite literally, you're caught in a loop. You're caught in what we call a perception loop. The perception so take our guy in the store, for instance. If every time a girl flirts with this guy, he denies that experience, then he's denying himself for love forever. And he's caught in a loop. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the written presentation. I'm going to apologize because I haven't had enough time to prepare for the written part of the presentation. I'm just going to explain these concepts as clearly as I can, as fast as I can. So ultimately, our lives, the lives as we know it, are based on our perception. We can either see the things in our life or we can't see the things. There's lots of stuff that sits outside of our perception. When you think about your life in your field of perception, and you think about the things that you want most in life, everything that you want is already there. The law of attraction, as we know it, basically says, you get the things that you focus on. But when you think about the law of attraction and the way it's been taught over the years, what happens is, the first question is you ask. You ask for what you want. You say, I want this. Immediately upon asking, the thing that you want most automatically appears. The path becomes available to you the second you ask. The problem is I think we all know, or we've heard the concept of alignment or allowing, right? And so it's allowing where we all get tripped up. So, what does our perception have to do with this concept of allowing or alignment? Our perception, because like I said, it exists in a field, what happens is the thing that we want ends up somewhere in this field. So in order to get the things we want in life, we actually have to open up our perception to the point where we can see it. It already exists. The next step in your evolutionary process is already available to you. It's laid out. It's ready for you to embrace it. But you just can't see it. It sits outside of your perception. So when we think about things like our beliefs, what is a belief, right? How does a belief affect our lives? When you break a belief down to the most fundamental level, what a belief is, it's really our individual truth. It's what we believe to be true about the world. Our perception works with our beliefs to apply meaning to our experiences. So when we're having an experience, basically what happens is your perception immediately goes into your belief system and tries to find some type of parallel experience, right? And so when it finds a parallel experience, essentially what it's doing is it's applying a meaning that's similar to an experience you've had in the past. But the question I have for you, and the thing I really want you guys to take away from today, is what happens if the belief you have about yourself, the beliefs that you hold about yourself or the world, are in fact wrong? So if the experiences, like our guy in the store, when he walks into the store, right, and he's having this experience of this girl flirting with him, why can't he see it? The girl is clearly flirting with him because his perception is going out and applying a definition to it. So he might say to himself, a girl like this would never be interested in me, right? And so he's thinking about it and he's going, immediately his perception is returning a feedback that basically just says, this isn't possible for you, so now you can't see it. So the question I have is, what if your beliefs about yourself are wrong? What if they're wrong? If your beliefs about yourself are wrong, that means your perception is wrong. If your perception is wrong, that means the decisions you make about your life are also wrong. If you have 20 years worth of decisions, so if every time you view an experience, you put a false or limited meaning on that experience, and you make a wrong decision, what happens? You go in the wrong direction. If the next time you have an experience, you place a false meaning to it, you make a decision based off, you go we also go in the wrong direction. So here's the thing about our mind. I think we all know that we have subconscious beliefs and we have conscious beliefs. The thing we don't know, and the thing that most people don't realize, is these beliefs are almost always a conflict, right? The vast majority of your beliefs are subconscious. Your conscious beliefs are actually in conflict with your subconscious beliefs, and that's the battle that rages inside of your head. Think about it for a second. If you have a conscious belief about something and you know something consciously to be true, and your subconscious mind comes in and overrides that belief, and you make a decision that you consciously know is not in your best interest, what happens? You make the wrong decision. And then you start beating yourself up. Why did I do that? Why did I make that decision again? I don't understand it. Life seems very, very confusing at that point. So let's look at our beliefs for a second. Let me ask you something. The belief of the guy in the store that's keeping him from seeing what he wants most in life is low self-esteem, right? So let's take a look at low self-esteem. What is low self-esteem? Just think about that for a second while I ask you a question. My question is, would you like to have better self-esteem? I think we can all agree the answer to that question is yes. But why? What would it do for you? I mean, the answer to this question is always very similar. I'll be more confident. I'll show up differently in my life. I'll stop caring what people think. Well, let me ask you to think about something else. What is self-esteem? Self-esteem is nothing more than your individual opinion of yourself. That's all it is. So if it's your opinion of yourself, then why don't you just change your opinion of yourself? Well, I think if we're honest, quite frankly, we don't know how. I think most of us don't even know that our opinion of ourselves is in fact a belief, and that it's a belief we can change. And how do we go about changing a subconscious belief anyway? Right? I mean, it's a good question. So when you think about it, you know, how are our beliefs formed? In order to understand how our beliefs form, you have to go all the way back into your childhood. You have to go back to the time you were born. When you were born, you had one main directive in life. Your first thing you needed to do was start applying meaning to the world, right? And your parents helped you do this. This thing is good, this thing is bad, we like these things, we don't like these other things, right? We have these people in our lives that we call influencers. An influencer is somebody who gives you an option or a choice to believe something about yourself, right? An influencer can be a bully in the schoolyard, a teacher, a mentor, a friend, a family member, even an abuser can be a influencer. So what do these people do? They come along and they give us choices about ourselves. They give us choices to believe something about ourselves. They give us choices to believe something about ourselves that may or may not be true, right? Studies have shown that your self-esteem is established by the time that you're 8 years old. Think about that. By the time you're 8 years old, your self-esteem is established. What does that mean? It's kind of a scary thought. That means that the 5-year-old you, the person you were from the time you were a toddler until the time you were in elementary school, is deciding today how your life is going to turn out. I mean, it's kind of scary, right? And so when I came to the realization that it was actually my beliefs in conjunction with my perception that was creating my life, I actually got kind of depressed, right? Because I made choices about myself that weren't true, but I didn't know any better because I was young. I'll tell you a story. When I was in elementary school, my kindergarten teacher didn't like me. Not sure why she didn't like me, but this is a true story. When I was in kindergarten, she would put me in front of the class and call me stupid. As a matter of fact, she would make the entire class call me stupid and make fun of me. So what kind of belief did I walk away with? You know, here's a person of authority in my life, and they tell me I'm stupid. I walked away with the belief that I'm stupid. So as I started moving through my life, I quite literally started laying that belief on everything that I saw and everything that I did. And my life spiraled out of control and went into a really dark place really fast as an adult, as you can imagine, right? Because our perception is the way we see the world. So we have subconscious beliefs. The vast majority of our beliefs are subconscious. We have both positive subconscious beliefs and we have negative subconscious beliefs. So I think we all know that there's both positive and negative people. And there's both positive and negative beliefs. This concept's called duality. You're always going to have both positive and negative subconscious beliefs. The question I have for you is, which ones have you been trained to identify with? Because that's really the key to your life. You know, I think, we think about it, there's positive people and there's negative people. That's not exactly true. This is where things kind of get complicated. In some areas of your life, you identify with your positive subconscious beliefs. In other areas of your life, you identify with your negative subconscious beliefs. Have you ever wondered why some areas of your life work and parts of your life don't work? In other words, maybe you have a really good relationship, but you have $0, right? Or maybe your health is fantastic, but you can't have a good relationship to save your life. And I bet if you look at it, it's probably something similar to what your parents had, because they were our first influencers. So why is that? And here's why. Because of duality, we will always have positive and negative subconscious beliefs. The question is, in different areas of our lives, what do we identify with? So in the good areas of our lives, we've been trained to identify with our positive subconscious beliefs. In the bad areas of our lives, we've been trained to identify with our negative subconscious beliefs. So we have what we call an emotional set point, if you can imagine a scale. Now, in the good areas of your life, in the positive areas of your life, in the areas of your life that work, you are an extremely positive person, right? And so what happens is, if you're presented with a negative set of circumstances or a negative situation in that area, you find the positive. A positive person can find a nugget of negativity in an ocean, a nugget of positivity in an ocean of negativity. A negative person can find a nugget of negativity in an ocean of positivity. Right? And that's literally how we create our lives. So if we want to create more things, better things in our lives, literally what we have to do is we have to move up the scale from negative to positive. And it's an infinite scale. If we get an HDMI cord, I think we got it. I'll show you the scale in just a minute. So one more thing I want you to consider. Why is it that we don't challenge and change our beliefs? Because we've been trained from a very young age not to. Once we have built out what we believe our existence to be, what we do is we literally seek validation. This is who I think I am. This is who I believe myself to be. Please validate me. Right? What is social media? Social media is nothing more than one giant validation machine. Well, what's the issue with seeking validation? When you're seeking validation for your current sets of beliefs, you never question them. You never ask if they're right or wrong. You never, in fact, learn and grow. Because questioning and expanding our beliefs is how we learn and we grow. It's how we expand our consciousness. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up my PowerPoint right now and kind of show you guys the scale a little bit so you can understand how all this stuff comes together. The field of perception is a sliding scale. It moves from negative to positive depending on the area of your life. So as you think about the field of perception, what I want you to think about is that your emotional set point, which ends up in the field of perception in relationships, might be over here, right? It might be extremely negative. Your emotional set points for money, if you have a lot of it, are probably in the positive range. You guys have all heard the concept of flow, right? Whenever you're moving down the scale, negative or positive, you are experiencing flow. Whenever you're moving up the scale, you're experiencing what we call resistance. Why is there resistance when you move up the scale? The field of perception can also be dictated as what you have come to understand is as your comfort zone. We all know that our most basic function as human beings is to seek comfort and avoid pain. So anytime you're moving up the scale, you are moving outside of your comfort zone. Anytime you're questioning something you believe to be true, you're moving outside of your comfort zone. That's why we find change to be so hard. So I want you to think about this as it relates to the law of attraction for just 1 second. This is an infinite scale of possibilities. Every human experience that has ever happened is contained somewhere on this scale. So if you're over here on relationships, on number 4 negative, and you want more than anything to have a relationship. You've put that relationship on your vision board. You've started meditating about that relationship. That relationship immediately plops down on this scale somewhere. It's already there. As a matter of fact, the path to get there is already there. So what do you have to do as a part of the art of allowing, or the art of awareness? You literally have to move up the scale. You have to move your emotional set point. You consciously have to move yourself in that area of your life from negative to positive. So anytime you want anything in life, it's on the scale. It already exists. You're just not in a range that you can currently see it. So you need to change your perception. You change your perception by, choosing the positive thought, choosing the positive meaning, starting to identify with the positive subconscious beliefs in this area. So one of the other things I want you to understand is this. So look at the top. The top of that is the point of attraction and creation. So as you move up and down this scale, right, everything that's ever existed is already here. If you're over here, bad things are happening to you, right? If you have really negative thoughts and negative beliefs in a particular area of your life, bad things and bad people are showing up. As you move up the scale, it's always going to seem like life is getting better. But the important thing to remember is, here's all your negative beliefs and here's all your positive beliefs. That you're never going to go from a 7 negative to a 3 positive in a single leap. Right? This is a step ladder. What is your goal? Your goal is to be more positive in this particular area of your life today than you were yesterday. So it's very literally like walking up a ladder. And as you walk up that ladder, you will see changes in your life. Everything will seem to be better. I can guarantee you, you might move up the negative scale, and you'll get to a 1 or 2, and you'll think you're in the positive scale. Because it's a much more positive place than you are right now. So as you look at the scale, each section on the top, literally, you're going to be attracting people in circumstances that also share that point of attraction. So has anybody done any substantial growing in their life? If you have, you've probably noticed you have a whole new set of friends in that area. Because the people that you used to hang out with are still hanging out somewhere over here on the negative side of the scale. And they have the choice to either grow with you or stay where they currently are. Now the other problem with this scale is it's actually weighted, right? So I might have 80% positive beliefs in the area of relationships and 20% negative beliefs. But the other can be true. When it comes to money, I could have 80% negative beliefs and 20% positive beliefs. So what do I have to do in order to start moving up that scale? I literally have to start calling into question everything that I believe about myself. All of the old definitions that I believed about myself. How do we do this? Right? How do we start calling into question what we believe about ourselves? We do this through our emotions. Our emotions are actually a feedback mechanism for our belief system. Anytime that you have a negative emotion, it is pointing to a negative or false belief that you're holding about yourself. I'll give you an example. If somebody were to call you stupid, for example, or say something to make you feel like they thought you were stupid, if you believed you were smart, you would probably just laugh it off. You'd never even hear it. It'd never even come across your radar. But if they said you were ugly, and you believed you were ugly, you would get really upset or really mad. Why is that? Why do we get upset about some things and we're fine over other things? People say things to us all day long that we can interpret as good or bad, right? What are the things that push our buttons? If you start looking at those things actually point to a false and limiting belief you hold about yourself. So if you start following your emotions, you can follow your emotions back to the things about yourself that you believe that are not true. And so in order to move up the scale and move into an area of your life that you feel really good about, what you have to do is you literally imagine hiking with a backpack. You need to start taking weight off. And the weight are your false and limiting beliefs. You have to start calling into question everything that you think you know about yourself. And you have to ask yourself, is this true or is this not true? So I think we're about there. So a couple minutes. Okay. So let me see if there's anything else on the scale that I need to point out. I think you can see and comprehend the scale. Is there any questions?
I'd like to know a little bit more about your journey and your story.
So I went from absolutely having nothing, about $150,000 in debt. I had no car. I had no money. I met my wife. For some reason, she decided that I seemed like a good option at the time. And I spent a long time reading every self-help book you could possibly imagine. And as I read those self-help books, it seemed like they were just alluding to things, but they weren't pinpointing what it was I needed to do to change my life. So my wife and I went on a journey, and that journey was, we are going to become successful, and we are going to map our journey from beginning to end. And so we went from absolutely having nothing to being multimillionaires. We have a great relationship, we have wonderful kids, we have a great family, we have fantastic health. But the process by which we did this was exactly what you're looking at on the screen. We called into question, nothing was off limits. No beliefs were off limits. We called into question everything we thought we knew about ourselves. And I got to tell you guys, this is the truth. Sometimes this journey's not fun. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart, right? Because you really have to look at the things in your life that you're most insecure about, and you have to question those things. It's the things you've been trained to since birth to push down and not talk about or not look at. And so my wife and I did that, and we built an amazing life for ourselves.
So you're recommending this also as with relationships, like me and my husband, if we did this, we'd be a sounding board to each other? Is that how it worked for you? Because pointing and looking at your beliefs and what, you're mirroring, what are you mirroring, what are you looking at?
Right.
Because I can say that you had beliefs that the teacher said you were dumb. How did you get out of that if you didn't share it with somebody to let you know that you weren't?
So there's two ways to do it. What I talked about before is you can watch your own emotions. You can look at your own emotions. Every time you have a negative emotional response, it's pointing at a false or limiting belief that you feel about yourself. Every single time, bar none. Why am I getting upset? Let's say a person says, "Oh, you wouldn't understand," and immediately, like, do they think I'm stupid? Right? You could say something like that. Or do they think I'm fat? Or do they think I'm ugly? Those are the only reason you get upset about anything is because you harbor a belief about yourself that isn't true, right? Now, when you talk about bringing another person into the equation, and if you can bring another person into the equation, it's great, because what happens is the other person becomes a mirror, and your intimate relationship is the biggest mirror that you have. Your spouse will constantly mirror your insecurities to you without even knowing they're doing it, right? And so, my wife will say to me all the time is, "That's not my issue. Why are you getting upset? That's not my issue. Maybe you need to look at that," right? I mean, we joke about that. We literally sit down at night on our bed and we go, okay, what did we get upset about today? What beliefs maybe are we harboring that aren't the truth? So, if that makes sense. Any other questions?
Go quantum, dude!